This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots, the Lean Builder, Hoots on the Ground podcast, coming to you from spring break in Watercolor, Florida. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm here to expound a little bit further on the episode we did on trust. I think it was number 8. Again, I promised some tools on how to create, how to maintain and measure trust. And I think it's important that I deliver on that promise, because that's what I'm trying to do here, is earn a level of trust with an audience that really helps to define lean construction, to drive it to our project sites so that we're able to open the gates on time and close the gates on time, go home and spend time with our families and enjoy things that we deserve. I went back and did some reading out on the Lean Builders blog, and Keon did a fantastic blog on the 3 do's and don'ts of building trust on the job site. And I really loved the article. I wish I'd have read it before the first one. We could have aligned some of our language, but I talked about that predictive trust. And when I read Keon's article, that really speaks to the applied trust side of things, where it's like, hey, if you apply over and over and over, then I'm finally I'm able to predict and trust you. And then Keon talked about the emotional based trust, and that's exactly what I was describing with the vulnerability based trust. I really enjoyed that blog. I'd encourage you to go read some of those. theleanbuilder.com, click on blogs. There's a ton of them out there. Great content out there. Would highly suggest taking advantage of that. I also went back and had a conversation with Mr. Donnarumma. I love how he helps me plan and get my mind right when I'm approaching these conversations. And he talked about how important that daily huddle was. From a boots on the ground perspective, the daily huddle is an opportunity to build both predictive trust, or applied trust, and emotional trust, or vulnerability-based trust. When we're at these meetings and we're keeping them to 15, 20 minutes max, right? And we're valuing people's times, and we're putting down the cell phones, putting down the distractions, and we're all in, and we're focused on this one topic and coming together as a team to solve these problems. That creates predictive trust, where I know I can count on 20 minutes in the morning and I'm going to get what I need, they're going to get what they need, and there's probably even going to be a little bit of time left over to have fun or cut up or have some jokes or just have a good time while we're doing it and learn about one another. We talk a little bit about that teacher-learner mindset, and that's our job as leaders, as facilitators in projects, to really dive in and be a teacher when the situation needs a teacher. But we also need to be learners just the same, so that we can learn how to be a better teacher, so that we can learn how to make system modifications, so that we can drive exactly what needs to happen and provide maximum value at all times. That's our job as leaders. And as we're going about creating trust, the article that Keon, he actually threw around several ways, and I wrote them down here. These are ways to build trust on jobs. No blame, no credit, right? Nobody takes the blame, nobody takes the credit. It's a team win, it's a team loss. We don't conceal information. We communicate open and often. We don't forget about people. People is what makes projects go. And if you take out that emotional feeling, that emotional connection, that using my emotional intelligence to be able to understand and read every situation, those are the things that really make a difference. And those are the things that lean builders do in order to really drive home love, care, and compassion on job sites. We request and use feedback. There's 5 ways that Keon suggests in the blog. I'm going to list a few more. I think it's as easy as calling people by name. Just when I say, hey, how are you, Matt, or Michael, or Michelle, or Mary, or whoever I'm talking to, I always try to repeat their name 3 times. And if I forget their name, guess what? I say, this is so embarrassing. I forgot your name. Like, I'm so sorry. I know that's such a childish thing to do, but can you remind me your name again? And chances are they don't remember your name either, so it's no hard foul. I always say, hey, my name's Adam again. Can you repeat your name? And then I repeat their name 3 times. Like, Matt, right? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mike. Michelle, it was so nice to meet you, Miss Michelle. Again, kind of little tricks of the trade, but saying their name, knowing their name is very important when you're trying to build trust with somebody. What better way to build trust than to actually know who they are? And show them respect, right? Show people respect, and not just people, but resources, right? We're not throwing stuff on the ground. If we're capable of standing, we're not sitting in a chair when somebody else who may need that chair more, like we're able to stand up and offer our chairs. If you tell me you're going to do something, do it. Or if you do it, then tell me that you did it. Like those are 2 very easy concepts and ways to build trust, earn trust, and really drive home a trustworthy relationship. You have to engage genuinely. Like people, I've mentioned this maybe a time or 2, but people know when you care or when you don't care. It's very obvious, very apparent. Again, words, intentions, people wear them on their sleeves. If you think somebody might have picked up on the vibe that you were sensing, they picked up on it. If you were frustrated in a conversation or you couldn't get a word in edgewise and that came through, I guarantee you it showed. You know who I'm talking to. A couple other things, noticing things, noticing the little things is so important. Again, those words, those actions, those are things that lead you to the next question. And when you start to get into the next question, now you're starting to talk, how am I maintaining that level of trust? If I'm encouraging it and I'm always going a little bit deeper because I really care personally and I'm challenging people directly to be better, then I'm really driving home a level of trust that allows vulnerability to happen, which as a leader set those right conditions for affirmations, and that cycle just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Trust is difficult to gain, easy to break, and difficult to repair. I'll tell you, there's a study, and I can't remember what book I was reading, but they talked about a study called the Love Lab. And the Love Lab was by John Gottman, I think was it? John Gottman and Robert Levenson. And they studied couples from all different ranges of preferences to origins to ethnicities, etc. And they came to be able to predict within a few hours of meeting a couple whether or not they would be a sustainable couple with an accuracy of over 90%. This was within meeting couples for a few hours based on, I think they called it the disaster and master of relationships. And so they were just analyzing the communication, and what they found is so intriguing that it takes 5 good things to offset 1 bad thing. And so when you think about that, if from a level of trust perspective, if I leave 1 job site dirty, messy, it's going to take me 5 clean job sites, swept, clean, materials up, organized, before I ever recover from that one. If I leave 2 job sites, like, holy cow, when you really start to think about the mountain that you have to climb in order to gain trust back, it really, really starts to weigh on you. So a piece of research that I've read, learned through a book, I thought was important, again, as we're talking about trust, as we're relating it to just those little things. And some people have heard of the trust jar, like the marbles, right? And you can spill it, but then you fill it up one by one. And so same concept, right? It's harder to get the trust back into the jar than it is to just spill the jar really fast and let the trust out. We talked a little bit about how to build trust, how to create trust, right? And how to maintain trust. I think it's, again, we quickly touch on inquiry advocacy. We mentioned this last time. There's a level of building trust where I've got to be very inquisitive. I've got to inquire about you as the person, as the human, as the existence of life in itself. And as I'm curious about what those things are about you that make you unique and special and different and creative to this world, I start to slide from an inquiry to an advocacy mindset, because I want to make sure that you have everything in my mind, that you have the ability to not just understand what I'm thinking, but we have the ability to communicate better, faster, stronger together. As we're doing that, I'm shifting to an advocacy mindset where I'm trying to make sure that we're aligned. As we talk about creating in this inquisitive, inquiring mode versus this, I'm sustaining that trust. I'm going to continue to build that trust. And that's more of this kind of advocacy relationship with still a touch of inquiry. And we're using them as tools to further develop our levels of trust as we drive relationships forward. I think it's important to note inquiry and advocacy and when we use and do not use those appropriately. And continuing to the next question, that's maintaining. When you're engaged and you're dialed into the conversation such that you can understand and try to learn and listen and predict where the conversation's going through asking those next questions, only then are you going to be able to really, really drive a level of trust and engagement. I've had a great successful first quarter with coaches, Construction Ache Solutions, as we're closing up the first quarter. And I'm reflecting on the teams that I've been working with, and I've been so privileged to get to meet some of the best teams in the nation, building some of the most complex mission-critical projects. And as I'm meeting these teams and I'm learning their processes and what they're doing day to day, I've been really blown away by the amount of lean things that are being done that maybe not so much they're calling it lean. As folks are bringing me in and, I'm reflecting on this first quarter, and man, I've made some really, really great friendships with some of these people on the job sites where I'm coming in and, they hire me to come in and do pool planning, but sometimes they say the client might not always know what they need. And generally, it's coming in to build trust. It's coming in to facilitate a conversation that allows everybody to be heard, that allows both sides to speak up on roadblocks, on hurdles, on getting together, planning, moving forward as a team, as a unit. That's really where I found success. Is I don't come in starting with a tool. It's not about the last planner system, right? It's not about putting Post-its on wall. Yeah, that is a huge part of it, but that's not where we start. We start with trust. We start with getting to know each other. And everybody's always like, well, I already know him. He's from the Valley, or he's from DC, or he does this, or he likes to fish, or she likes to eat burgers and drinks bourbon, or whatever the case is. But typically you only know people at face value. You only know what they've told you. Rarely have you ever asked that next question. Where are you from? Where's your family? These type of things. And what happens is when we ask these questions and we discover these new pieces of information about people, then we're able to make connections, right? And as connections develop, so does trust. And as trust develops, then it just we engage deeper and we learn more about each other. And all of a sudden we're an element or two removed from one another, but yet we all have the same goals. We all have the same aspirations, inspiration to get this job done in the most efficient way possible. And so we'll bring it back. I've got a tool that helps me on job sites measure trust. And it's going to sound silly, but I just call it the trust circle. And I literally will take a marker board and I will just draw a circle and I'll put a dot in the middle of that circle. And this sounds so kindergarten, y'all, but it works so well. And I'll just go through and I will list myself first. And this is in our trade partner meetings. And I will say, hey, where am I at in your circle of trust? And we'll judge artsy-fartsy kind of, is it here? Am I outside? Am I inside? Am I right on your family? Am I, and people, hey, you forgot to give me this, or you didn't have those drawings updated, or man, they'll call your faults out. And some people will come to your rescue. But what's important is you hear what they're saying and understand where are you on that circle of trust. And as soon as you can, you'll generally agree, or maybe you have to do an A and a B, or somebody doesn't like you or whatever. And so, be, again, openness, right? Willing to be that first point of failure as a leader that's saying, hey, I'm going to put my butt on the line first, and I want you to rate me, and then I'm going to rate you. And be fair. And so as you go around and people are inside or outside of the circle, right? And that can be the first pass. Are they inside or outside? Okay. We know all these people are inside. Now, how close inside? Like, who do we trust the most? Who leaves trash on their job? Who gives us bogus change order? Who gives us RFIs without solutions? Who gives us submittals without highlighting what they're doing? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Who told us it was going to be 6 weeks and now it's 16 weeks, right? Who ordered the wrong colors? Who are the trades, or who are the organizations that are prohibiting flow on this job site? And let's call them out, man. If the job doesn't trust them, they need to know that. This is important information that rarely makes it back. I urge you to just draw a circle on a whiteboard, pop a dot in the middle, call that your family. Be willing to be vulnerable. Again, I caution you, though, there's a lot of facilitation effort that needs to go into this, right? Do not oversimplify this. This is something, that can cause some real personification of problems, which isn't the goal, right? The goal is to get a more creative, synergetic workforce who are working together to drive home good examples on your job. And so this is not to be weaponized. This is not to be mud throwing, like, hey, you left the tools out last night, you're out of my circle. Like, no, but if it's used in the appropriate way with the right facilitation, then it can be a super valuable tool to let folks know where do they stand with relation to trust and you on the job, right? Because these are, again, these things that we can't measure, like our culture. People love this culture word, but how are you measuring your culture? And this trust word, when I drop it, it's like, okay, if I'm going to drop a word that's super important, how are we actually measuring trust? And so pay attention to the trust circle. It's something I'm looking forward to further developing. If you have questions about it, I did submit an LCI abstract, so fingers crossed, hopefully I'll be able to present on exactly what that trust circle looks like. I know I got a lot of questions in this past presentation that we did with Langston on the craft player cards on the circle of trust. I'm looking forward to diving in there. I'll leave you with this, really. Trust is again, difficult to gain, easy to break, and tough to repair.